Well, see, I'm going to transition to somebody who should be making $40 million. I'm just going to throw it out there. Mavs digital content manager, it is Bobby Karalla. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. I'll settle for like 10% of that and never complain again another day in my life.
Okay.
All right.
I'll see what I can get working there.
Make a call.
Now,
Heck yeah.
You need to answer this first question correctly, though.
Whoa.
Okay.
When James Harden says there's no pressure on them and the pressure's on the Mavs tonight, is that absurd?
I don't think it's absurd necessarily. And that maybe I'm losing money on my salary here. But I'm
but go ahead.
Fight back and get some. I'm going to try and stack some cash here real quick.
I like it.
I think that if Luka and Kyrie as a duo are only able to match whatever James Harden and Paul George contribute as a duo tonight, whether that's 20 points combined or 80 points combined, I think that favors the Clippers because guys like Norm Powell and Ivica Zubac have had really, really good series. So I think there's a little more pressure on Luka and Kyrie to perform to win this game. However, if you stack up all the playoff failures or shortcomings or whatever on James Harden and Paul George's resume, that obviously is a little longer than the list on Luka and Kyrie. So I think that those two guys face, maybe more like legacy pressure. But tonight in this series, especially facing a road game 7, if they're unable to close out the Clippers at home, Luka, Kyrie, and the Mavericks are under maybe a little more pressure. But that said, hey, I like Luka and Kyrie more than any other duo in the league, so I'm not that worried.
Dude, I will just say this. He's back in the game. All right.
Okay.
Bobby's back in the game.
I don't know
now.
how much money you've gotten back yet, but it's some.
That line though on the pressure, I'm not saying anybody's walking directly from James Harden over to Luka and Kyrie and saying, "Hey, he said this," but what would you expect, knowing those guys the way you do, their response would be to that? The pressure's on those guys instead.
I think Kyrie, say what you will about his previous stops earlier in his career, but during his time in Dallas, albeit short, he has demonstrated pretty impressive poise and composure, and that's especially important when playing alongside a guy like Luka, who, let's be honest, can be pretty emotional at times, frustrated on the court, gets a lot of texts and stuff. Kyrie never really does any of that stuff. Whether the Mavs are up 30 or down 30, his demeanor is the same. And so I don't really think that Kyrie has a physical or psychological reaction to pressure. Luka, despite running a little hotter than most other NBA players that we've ever seen in our lifetimes, has tended to deliver in these situations. I mean, his record in closeout games is very, very good. His individual stat lines when trying to achieve elimination or stave off elimination is very, very good. So I don't really have any questions about those two guys. And Luka looked much more like himself in Game 5, which was a welcome sight for Mavs fans because in the first 4 games in this series, whether it was the knee or just the Clippers' defense, he just didn't really look like himself. But he did, especially in the second half of that game. And so if any of that can carry over to tonight, then maybe the Mavs can get off to a good start and take control of this thing a little earlier than they even were able to in Game 5.
We've also heard about potential illness that Luke has been suffering through for the last week or so. And you just talked about he looked a lot more like himself, but the knee still kind of needs to be tracked, right? I know he had an amazing game. He's an amazing player, but this still feels like it could be an issue throughout the playoffs, does it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's taken him maybe a little longer to get up off the floor after collisions than it normally does. And, to his credit, he's been playing in a defensive stance way more in this series than he did throughout large parts of the regular season. So, no matter how much that knee might be affecting his jumper and his three-point percentage, he's shooting, I think, 26 or 27% from 3 in the series. It doesn't seem to be having much of an impact at all on his defense. So you got to give him credit there. But
for sure.
With this kind of thing, they're calling it a knee sprain, which, there's ankle sprains that you can bounce back from the next day, and there's ankle sprains that bother you for months. So I can only imagine the knee can be just as complicated, if not more. But those things tend to get better over a large period of time. Now, fortunately for the Mavs, if they're able to win tonight, they wouldn't play Game 1 against OKC until Tuesday, despite that series already being over. So that would give them all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and all day Monday, and most of Tuesday to, give them more treatment, stay off your feet, hopefully get some R&R and get that thing feeling better. But if they lose tonight, they play on Sunday in LA, And if they're fortunate enough to win that game, they got to fly all the way back halfway across the country to OKC on Tuesday to play game one. So the longer this series goes, the less time he's going to have to nurse that thing and hopefully recover. And you're definitely going to have to be at your best to handle Lou Dort and what OKC is going to throw at him defensively. So, it's super important to get this thing over with as soon as possible. But it does seem like he is, on the comeback as opposed to it getting worse.
All right, let's just do it tonight then. That sounds like a good plan.
Agreed.
Bobby's going with.
Ooh, let me ask him a question about that then.
All right.
Mavericks win tonight. Stars win tonight.
No.
But you have to sacrifice a Rangers loss to get that done. Do you accept my deal?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a bad negotiation, man. I'm taking that all day, all night.
Look,
8
Bobby.
days a week.
Thank you.
I respect you.
Close out 2 series in one night. I mean, that's the dream.
Exactly.
Dude, you can't let Kevin put you in that position, though. Like, why not win all 3? That's what I mean. Just fight for all 3, Bobby. That's all we're trying to do here. Kevin's the one.
Fair. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Why do we have to make any sacrifices?
Because what's the topic otherwise? Because if the topic is, hey, wouldn't it be neat if we won all 3?
And
your answer is yes.
We'd all be happy and we'd be excited and we'd have a great day, Kevin.
And then we move
That's
on.
True. Yeah. There's not a lot of room for sports debate. If
and
the proposition is just, can we win them all?
In this world, I need you to be able to sacrifice something. And in this instance, it's a Rangers loss to get what you want.
All right. Bobby Karalla joined us here on the K&C Masterpiece on 105.3 The Fan. Why does Dereck Lively not play like a just turned 20-year-old big man?
Man, he has been super impressive, hasn't he?
Yes.
And dealing with everything he's had to deal with off the court from a personal standpoint and also from a medical standpoint, dealing with some pretty serious injuries throughout the season. Which have kind of interrupted his development. I mean, he would miss 5-10 games in a row because he sprained his ankle or fell weird on a dunk and hurt his back. But he has just gotten so much better. That isn't to say that he's, plays mistake-free basketball all the time. I mean, he still makes some rookie mistakes. He still gets out of position every now and then. But, I mean, his impact in these games has just been off the charts to the point where, I mean, Zubac has been more productive than him because he's playing more minutes. But Lively has arguably been the best big man in this series as a rookie. And that is super exciting, not just for however far this playoff run is able to go, but also for the future. I mean, he looks every bit of a franchise center, of the kind of guy that you can build a defense around, of the kind of guy that can impact a game on a possession-by-possession basis at both ends of the floor. As a 20-year-old who played 1 year in college and 1 year in the NBA. I mean, he's just been unbelievable. The dude has a head on his shoulders. He's mature. He's hungry to get better. And he's demonstrated that he can get better. And, I mean, spinning it forward, like, I don't know what he's going to be. If he's already this good now, what is he going to be like at 25, at 28, at 30? I mean, there's no telling how much better he can become still. And we might see it. I mean, if they play for another month or two in the playoffs, like, we might see him take even more steps. It's really, really exciting and equally impressive.
Yeah, I feel like overly blessed having him and Gafford because just in our history as Mavs fans, we haven't had that good of production,
right.
that felt that comfortable at that position. Our whole careers of being fans. I mean, even since I was 5?
Yeah,
because when I think I really started locking in on Mavs was about 5 years old.
James Donaldson forever.
Yeah, so I feel like overly blessed here having both of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, the one time that they had a really, really good 1-2 punch at the 5 spot was the year they won the championship with Tyson Chandler and Brendan Haywood off the bench.
Yes.
And even Jan Nahimi was getting in there making plays, against Miami. So, big men, man, they're super duper valuable. The Mavs have been able to get by and, go on playoff runs and have really good regular seasons with, kind of like a run-of-the-mill starting center or maybe like an average center rotation or whatever. But, I mean, now we are seeing the impact, especially when playing alongside a guy like Luka, who more so than other playmakers in the league really does value that lob target and what that opens up for him on drives to the rim. I mean, it has been just a seamless fit with both of those two guys. And, not to think too far ahead, but Gafford is under contract for another couple seasons after this year. Yeah. Lively's in the first year of his contract. I mean, this is a long-term thing that we're working with. And I mean, it's already starting off this well, so I can only imagine how much better it'll get over time.
What have you thought about the perimeter defense thus far of the Mavs in this series? Because obviously, and we've seen it in a couple of games, the Clippers are already a good three-point shooting team, and they have been ultra hot in 2 of these games. Sometimes it's a reflection of the defense. Sometimes it's not. What have you thought about Mavs perimeter defense?
I mean, I thought Derrick Jones, regardless of who he's been defending, has done an incredible job in this series. But the Clippers got two guys. You know, they have Harden and Paul George, and Jones can only defend one of them. And in the games where predominantly Luka or Kyrie ends up switched onto Harden, because that's what the Clippers are doing basically every time down the floor, when they've been able to hold their own, the Mavs have held the Clippers under 100, and it's looked really, really ugly for the LA offense. But for stretches of Game 4 and for a lot of Game 1, you know, the two games the Mavs lost, and they trailed by 29 in Game 1 and 31 in the second quarter of Game 4, you know, those two guys and other players on the team just weren't able to stay in front of the ball. You know, you think of that fourth quarter of Game 4 where Harden was able to just get past Luka or PJ Washington kind of unimpeded all the way to the rim and just drop in a little floater. I mean, that was pretty gory stuff, you know, and it kind of spoiled what would have been an awesome comeback. But I thought a really nice adjustment in Game 5 was doing a similar thing in that they're trying to take away Harden's left hand and trying to encourage him to drive. But whenever Harden would get past the guy at the point of attack, whether that's Luka or whoever else, they were still kind of bumping him, feeling him, letting him know that they're there and steering him into help. And the Mavs were able to get away with having a big man on the floor at all times in Game 5 because they weren't down 30. They didn't have to go small. They were able to play to protect a lead as opposed to scrape away at one. And that meant that Harden was facing a shot contest from Lively or Gafford or Maxey, and the other big was able to box out Zubats or box out Mason Plumlee. And so you're not having to sell out to block a layup, meaning if they miss, it's just going to be a tip in for the big dude. You know, the Mavs are able to both contest a layup and get a rebound, you know, and that's super duper important. So, you know, it's tough. I'm not sure the Mavs have the personnel to stay in front of Harden all the time, no matter what, because again, they only have one Dereck Jones, but they did a much better job as a team in Game 5 of covering up for those mistakes or of rotating to erase those easy shots at the rim that really plagued them in some of the losses in the series.
Have you seen the flappers in the seats? I presume you already have. Have you seen the flappers in the seats at the arena today already?
I have not. I haven't been to the arena yet. I'm about to go over there here shortly. I hope that everything in there is black. It's a City Edition night, black jerseys. We need black clappers. I'm taking my black hoodie to the game. Like, I'm getting in the mood, you know, and I hope everybody else is too.
Okay, all right. Well, they didn't have the black clappers. Actually, I didn't see the back side of it, so maybe it is. But the front side of it at least does have PJ Washington, and it says "Stand on Business." And I was kind of curious. Okay. I was kind of curious on, like, what is it that you feel PJ has been the biggest factor that he's brought to this team since he got traded here?
I mean, I think legitimate toughness. Yeah. You know, the Mavs in the Luka era, they've had guys, you know, that'll talk trash. They've had guys that'll get physical, but they're not starters. They're not on the court for 35 minutes. You know, like James Johnson was a big one during the 2021 season, but he only played, you know, 15 minutes a game or whatever. So for large portions of this thing, including all of crunch time, he's not out there. But PJ is out there for almost the entire game. And he is, you know, a legit 6'8", 6'7", 6'8". He's got long arms. He's strong. He's tough. He's going to block shots. He's going to let you know about it. He's not going to shy away from boxing out or having to grapple for post positioning with a bigger dude. You know, he is another example of, despite not being 7'2" the way Lively is and 280 the way that Gafford is, or however much he weighs, you know, the Mavs are a tough team. They're a legitimately tough team. And their tough guys are also really good. And their tough guys are going to let you know that they're good, and their tough guys are going to let you know that they're tough. They're not going to back down from any of that stuff. And, you know, against the Clippers, especially in the bubble and in 2021, you know, the Clippers are just able to kind of bully the Mavs. They were able to push them around. They were the bigger, tougher, stronger team. You know, that's not true anymore. Washington and Gafford and Lively, and I mean, Maxey's playing tough, and Luka's gotten tougher. Like, these guys are legitimately, you know, they're dangerous people. They're big and strong, and they're gonna bang with you down there. They're not gonna back down from a challenge, you know, whether that's emotional or psychological or most importantly physical. And that has really manifested itself, you know, in numerous ways. I mean, it's a lot of fast break dunks. It's a lot of winning rebound battles. It's a lot of physicality on the defensive end that they're fortunately able to get away with now because officials aren't kind of overblowing their whistles.
Right.
You know, it's just been a very pleasant sight to see, you know, and it's been a really, really long time since the Mavs have pretty much every single night been able to roll out a lineup that is bigger and stronger and tougher and faster than their opponents. And it's been pretty dang awesome to watch.
Now, I know the players and the team, they're not looking ahead, but as a media person, I can look ahead all I like. Maxey Kleber, incredible in Game 5. If he's shooting 50 to 60% from three, what is the Mavericks' ceiling in this postseason run?
I mean, if he's going to shoot 7 of them a game and he's shooting 50%, then the ceiling does not exist. I mean, the ceiling is the roof, as the great Michael Jordan once said. I mean, the Mavs need not only Luka and Kyrie to make shots. They don't need the big guys to throw down 20 dunks, but they got to do stuff around the rim. But what they really need more than anything is the role players to knock down threes. And throughout most of this series, no one really has been. But then in Game 5, Maxey knocks down 5. Derrick Jones Jr. hit a couple. Josh Green had that big 4-point play. Like, if those guys get confident, I mean, you think back to 2022, they did have Jalen Brunson, but they did not have Kyrie Irving. They had a different version of JB than what we're seeing right now in New York. The Mavs were able to go all the way to the conference finals because Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock were knocking down 40% from three. And Maxey had that big game against Utah. The Mavs ceiling is super high because of Kyrie and Luka. Their floor is super high because of Kyrie and Luka.
Right.
But if these other guys can knock down threes at even a respectable clip, 35%, 40%, Maxey's shooting better than 50 right now, but anywhere slightly above average, then this team is capable of doing some pretty special things.
They close it out tonight?
Hope so. I hope so.
Come on. Yes or no?
I do. I think they will. I think they will get it done. First 5 minutes of the game are important. You need guys to make shots. And if they can just settle in, then I think that it could be a pretty fun night for everybody in attendance.
Well, the Rangers play first, so I guess we'll know the answer based on Kevin, the way he forces us to do things.
If the Rangers win, is that like a bad sign?
Yes. Yes, it is.
No.
He doesn't get to make the deals, Bobby. He's not in control of it all.
Yet
He just
here
thinks
we
he
are.
is.
Bobby, thank you very much. Outstanding stuff, as always. Love listening to you on the Get Right as well.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate it.